Hi, this is Abhishek, your cat buddy. As a part of our vodcast series for the coding quest, today we are going to start the episode number three, that's vodcast number three. As you're very much aware, the whole aim of this vodcast series is to educate the students, the freshers who want to go into the IT domain. Today, I'm blessed that I have with me Mr. Srinivasa Reddy. Mr. Srinivasa Reddy carries the experience of over 30 years, that is 3 decades. Just to give you an introduction of his work, he started as a trainee in NIIT. After that, he went on to work as a vice president of a group called Karvi Group in Hyderabad. And in January 2020, he founded out his own organization. He's a co-founder of an organization called Tech Suda Group. Mr. Srinivasa Reddy, aka Vasu, is a person of eminence, and his experience in IT of 3 decades, where he has seen the information technology age coming in India for the past 30 years, right? From somewhere it was not to somewhere it is today. So I'm blessed to have him on the conversation. I'm sure you as an audience are going to love this conversation because there is so much to take away for past 30 years of experience being compressed in 30 to 40 minutes. Do enjoy, and let me start the conversation with Mr. Srinivasa, aka Vasu. Hi, Vasu. What was that moment that inspired you, or that kind of triggered you to take up IT as a profession at the start of your career? Is it somebody's guidance, or is it some incident that happened, or is it on your own? You decided to jump or to join the IT force. What was it?
15 years back, I would have said a girlfriend. Now I'm matured. Now I'm matured, so I wouldn't say that.
Okay.
When I finished my graduation, IT was kind of big at that point of time.
Okay.
Y2K was all the craze. So everybody, like what you see ChatGPT today, Y2K was the problem to be solved by everybody at that point of time. I would still say I am attracted to that. I'm more like somebody like in my peer group started learning computers, and in a way it helped me to also see there is an opportunity. And I wouldn't see that to be a great beginning per se, but once I started working with computers, all the difference came through.
Okay, so it is the environment around you which was built up in a way that encouraged you to take it up, and then over a period of time you explored this segment as you're going across.
Yes, yes. All the girls in my class were joining computers that time.
So you're being brutally honest. What really inspired you, rather than beating around the bush, because since all the girls in your department or in your school were joining, so you say, okay, let me go in there. So did you okay? So did you find the right girl after entering IT?
Unfortunately, IT became the girl. So I got attracted to IT more than those girls.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. So initially, when you joined the IT force, what were the challenges that you faced at the start of your career?
I wouldn't see a lot of challenges. See, there was a time opportunities were abundant. So I wouldn't say challenges, but it's more like, see, in 2002, 2003 time frame, there's very little expertise in the market.
Right,
If you
right.
you couldn't really go to somebody with some big idea, you couldn't really go to somebody saying, okay, give me an advice on how to deal with it.
Right.
It is mostly inward looking. So you'll have to kind of that midnight oil burning program. So you'll have to spend more time trying to figure out what you're trying to do.
Absolutely.
Maybe do a little bit of thinking yourself and then come up with. So probably lack of guidance, I would say, from a previous generation, not
Right.
really from a faculty kind of a perspective, but more like there is no generation of IT folks before us. So in
You're right.
2000,
Absolutely.
2003, we were probably the first or second generation of IT workers that started off.
Right, right. Absolutely. Because today's world, if you want an advice, you go on YouTube, you get like tons of advice. You can read blogs. But 2002, 3, as you said, it was like hardly the second generation of people who are entering the IT workforce. So you really had not much mentorship in that per se, or guidance or coaching in that per se. That would have been a great challenge. Absolutely. Right. Thank you so much. So, Vasu, definitely, as you said, there was a lack of guidance. That was one of the struggle that you pointed out. So, were there any mentors that when you started your career who guided you, maybe the first generation, or you by yourself figured it out, or there were mentors that handheld you during your initial days, or they're still, kind of guiding you? So, what is the role of mentors in terms of in your experience in the IT domain you had?
I wouldn't still say I don't have mentors. I mean, I don't know if it's appropriate for me to take names of those people who inspired me at that point of time. I briefly worked at NIT. There was a lady regional head at that point of time. She was very inspiring in her own right. We
Nice.
don't have direct interactions on a day-to-day basis, but you can see what kind of work they are doing, the
Yes.
level of interactions, the maturity in the discussions. So that's not really around IT, but in general, where the industry lies. So
Right.
what kind of
Right.
people that you are going to work with in future. So
Right.
that's a different way of seeing a mentor. I
Right.
wouldn't still see as a IT mentor, but I definitely see people as people who give you kind of without really having to interact, you still get some advice, the unspoken advice, right? You don't have to
Right.
ask, but in your day-to-day interactions, you get that. So I do have people, and there was a gentleman in one of my first assignments who's an IITian. His
Hmm.
name is Ram Kidambi, and he is wonderful. So he had one question. I think that's it's like reading the crux of Bible in one sentence.
Oh,
So one day he said, so generally I want to see my managers or my second line driving cars than bikes. I didn't
right.
understand what he actually meant at that time, but then I realized that's a growth mindset. So there are people who influenced me, but I'm not sure whether they felt they are mentoring me, but I took it as they're giving me guidance in general.
Nice, nice. So you pointed out to two-person, one lady from the NIIT, and the second person Ram Giravi from your previous organization, whom in a kind of way mentored you. So I would love to hear one particular incident uh, where you felt that this immense learning in this particular incident. Any one incident, since we're speaking about it, like you mentioned the example of cars and vehicles he mentioned as a kind of inspiring you to achieve the next level. Is there any incident that comes to your mind in terms of indirect mentoring they did, not specifically directly?
So I'll narrate one incident that I had with Kidambi. So there was a time, so I was still a youngster, and he is probably at my age at that point of time.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm in my 20s, and he is probably in his 50s, maybe 40s. So one of these days, organizational bureaucracy, people come up with different reasons why something needs to be looked in much deeper, much detailed,
Correct.
indirectly introducing more delay in the process. So one day, he was the senior most guy in my system at that time. I think he was vice president at that time. And obviously, between him and me, there are like close to 16, 15 levels of vertical leadership. So what we were trying to make some decision around making a purchase of internet bandwidth.
Hmm.
That's completely technical decision, and probably nobody had anything else to contribute except money.
Correct.
So I went to him with a budget of around 50 lakh rupees investment to be done per year,
Hmm.
and everybody in between said it can't be approved. So I kept going to the next guy in the chain, next guy in the chain. Finally, ended up with him, and he didn't even take 5 minutes to approve.
Wow.
So I generally asked him, "What is it that you see differently that I couldn't convince all the 10 other people in between you and me that?" So I must have had courage to ask that question. So I asked him, "What is it that you saw differently that I couldn't explain the people in between?"
Right.
He said one thing very clearly. He said, if you are willing to take a risk of that magnitude and you have the courage to come and talk to me about it, I don't see why I should not stand behind you. So if you are not willing to take a risk, there is no way you are going to achieve anything.
Wow.
So that I took it for a long time. So if somebody is talking to me, if somebody is saying, I think what you see nowadays, I think in startups, this is becoming not so important because nowadays putting money into an idea is a very acceptable thing. But those days it was a little different.
Yes.
So when you are willing to ask money and obviously you don't have anything to show for the same day,
Correct.
that's a big thing. And
Which was this year actually?
His willingness to accept something like that was, I have never seen that before at that time. That really pushed me, my thinking like, okay, if this gentleman is not ready to listen to you, go to somebody else who's ready to listen.
Very nice. Now, which was this year actually where he okayed for 50 lakhs?
Around 2001.
Wow. 2001, 50 lakhs.
And I was dealing with a company called VSNL that time.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not. I don't know if it is there. That company would have got closed now. That it was a government PSU at that point of time.
VSNL. Now it's BSNL or MTNL. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, wow, 2001 50 lakh project, and he approves it. And most importantly, the reason that he gives is such a phenomenal that if you're able to take that risk, why will I not stand behind you? I mean, how many times in life people in the leadership rung stand with the associates, especially in this particular 50 lakh worth of investment in 2001. It's a huge amount in today itself. And
Yes.
2001, though, I would say it will be close to 5 CR now, if not less.
Yeah. And not only that propelled the organization also into a new age. Obviously, I wouldn't take the credit because without him, it wouldn't have happened. But then, prior to that, we were dependent on some US services agency to help us set up our websites, our email system, many other technology solutions. In 2001 was everybody's nascent. There was no great technology provider at that point of time. And we started becoming our own data center. So he encouraged us to take leaps and bounds of progress.
Wow. Nice. That's very nice. So that brings me to a very beautiful question. Was there a particular project that really challenged you to the most? I mean, this is a very common question that I ask to our people on the podcast, like a particular project that kind of challenged you, like, wow. And when you came out of it, you were like a different person. There was a transformation during the project. Was there any particular incident, any particular project in your career?
I would like to say no, but the reality is far different.
Okay.
Every single project that I dealt with has a challenge. Right. Even today, I mean, even with 30 years of experience in software development, infrastructure maintenance, all kinds of activities after having done that, every single project is a challenge. See, sometimes it's a technical challenge, sometimes it's a financial challenge, sometimes, obviously, you don't have everything already calculated and kept. There'll always be some expectations and there'll always be some resources.
Right.
The gap between what you have versus where you're trying to go, there is always a challenge. And when it comes to technology, there are always challenges like, am I working with the latest and the greatest technology? Let's say if I'm building something today, how will it survive 10 years? Will it be there? Let's assume I'm trying to build something on some technology. Will it survive 10 years? Will it survive 20 years? So will my code base, particularly if I'm trying to write today JavaScript is all the rage. Everybody uses JavaScript in every single project. But in 2001, 2, there was no JavaScript. So anybody who introduced, that time we used to call it Ajax, anybody who could think of Ajax is like, why are you wasting your time?
Right.
That's a very complex, because it was still undeveloped. The spec itself was not kind of finalized. And we did one project in 2002, I think, if I remember correctly, wherein we were trying to implement Ajax. I mean, it's a simple technology today. Probably people don't even know what Ajax is right now. But that's a big investment from our point of view. Changing the technology to something that you don't even know what is going to happen, just because you felt it's the right thing to do. So that is what I think I generally keep as a problem. See, when you see something completely new and it's nothing similar to what you're currently using, absolutely, and you want to do it and you don't know whether it's the right decision or not.
Correct.
That is the biggest challenge I face. Let's say if I'm today, everybody is talking about language models. Whether I should use it in my product, will it benefit? Will it create, let's say, resource constraint on my project? Let's say whether I'll spend 3 days of my time on understanding the language models and come up with nothing to show for.
Correct.
So that is always a challenge. What technology you have and what you can do with it, will it survive the long term? And that's something that everybody, every developer, every architect goes through every day.
Absolutely. Technology is evolving, and what is valid today may be or may not be valid tomorrow. So we don't have that predictive intelligence yet. But yeah, that's the challenge. So that brings me to the next obvious question: is that 30 years, 3 decades? What is that challenges you the most that kept you with that vigor all these 30 years in IT industry? What is that challenge of IT industry that keeps you alive and kicking?
I think it is personal for many people. For me, obviously, what drives me need not be the driving force for somebody else.
Correct.
For me, the ability to create something. When I see, let's say, a website like Facebook, when I see a website like Instagram, and with some effort, I'll be able to create that system.
Right.
Like if somebody talks about Kubernetes or somebody talks about LLM, point is that if I spend a little bit more time, if I learn a little bit more technology, maybe this one new thing, I will also be at par with these guys who are creating the top of the line technology. So for me, it is always that need to be staying on top of the current technology trend. So that drives me mostly to reading regularly, keeping up to date with what is happening in the industry. So it's a drive for me. It is from within. So I'm fascinated by the new technology.
It is the curiosity that keeps you going.
Absolutely.
And that competency to know what's happening and staying afloat, as you say, with the top of the line guys who create it, I can also do it. And even after 3 decades, you have that vigor and curiosity. I think that's where it is. So you said that you keep yourself updated. So for the viewers and the watchers who want to upscale or upgrade themselves, what kind of tips would you recommend to them? What should they watch? What they should listen? What they should read?
Okay, I have some particular websites I follow. I don't pick up my technology news from Google.com or general websites like this. We get to know new technologies through these main channels only when they already succeed.
Correct. You're right.
ChatGPT, everybody knows today, but 4 years back, there are people who knew about this project.
Wow.
So there are forums, there are some websites particularly focusing on upcoming technology. What is the new idea that the people talk about? So there are many websites. Maybe I follow, there's a website called Tech Mimi. That's a very, very popular website. I mean,
what is the name?
Tech Mimi. Tech Meme.
Okay.
Tech Meme or Tech Meme, whichever way we pronounce. That's one site which has a lot of information on the technology. Nowadays, it's covering quite variety, but earlier it used to be purely on technology. There's one website called infoq.com.
Infoq.com.
Yeah. So there are so it's a personal taste. So
you're right.
When you spend more and more time, and I spend quite a lot of time on Reddit.
Very nice. Reddit.
So you get to involve in some communities, try to figure out what is happening.
Yes, communities like Reddit, and as you said, these two websites really helps us a lot to keep in touch, abreast with what's happening in the world of technology currently, because IT is evolving faster than we think. As you rightly said, what Ajax would have been a universe at that time, today many of them or many of us would not even aware. So something grows up and something becomes obsolete. So staying updated, just like how the softwares get updated or patched up, it's very important in the IT domain. Absolutely. Now that brings me, after 3 decades of experience in IT, what tips would you like to give to the listeners in order to have a work-life balance? Because we understand sometimes people say that IT domain can get really stressful. the hours, number of hours being put in is maximum. So how did you navigate for the past 3 decades in the IT and balancing your work and life?
So again, it's a personal choice, so we can't generalize and predict something for everybody, whether it will be a good or bad decision for them. But I would say don't stop until your curiosity dies. Probably you took the curiosity topic. So if you are curious about something, throw away the balance portion. If you are not curious, and probably you are not in the right space in IT. So I would definitely agree work-life balance is required, but it should be treated with an age factor. So you have to, maybe in your 30s and 40s, you should spend more of your time maybe with family. I definitely agree. But if you are looking at a youngster in his 20s or mid 30s, I mean maybe just below 30, I don't think they have more energy to spend. I don't think they should be given this concept of work-life balance and all that whatnots that come with it. However, later in their life, yes, definitely it is very important. I'm sure. Let's say if I'm wanting to go back to my family when you already have a kid, it's definitely understandable and it's encouraging thing. But at a young age in his 20s, I mean, I wouldn't even want to tell anybody there is something called work-life balance.
Thank you, Vasu. Absolutely. You have defined first of all the curiosity that's very important. That should be alive. Number one, age-wise, the listeners who are in 30s and 40s, for them staying with the family or having that core conversation with the family is very important. But if you're in your early 20s or late 20s, under 30, if you have energy left. This should not bother you much. It should be the curiosity to go
Absolutely.
and do more and found more that is going to cater you for the next 15 or 20 years. Great one. Since this podcast is specifically meant towards the people or the students, IT, who want to join the IT domain, what is that one tip would you like to give before they go for an interview? Or if you are an interviewer, what is the thing you would love to hear from a candidate?
So look at the age of the interviewer. That's the number one. So
Age of interview.
lot of times I tend to take up interviews with a high technical vigor.
Correct.
I talk about the latest and greatest technology that I'm aware of. Let's say I'm working on Kubernetes, I know how to create Docker images and whatnot. So, but see, end of the day, the gentleman, if he doesn't even understand what you are talking, he's not going to connect with you. So
Correct.
establishing what is the baseline, understanding what the other person appreciates. So
Correct.
if I'm speaking to somebody who's youngster, let's say in his 30s, probably I'll go more technical in nature. And if I'm talking to somebody a little bit more, let's say in his 40s, I'll focus on basic things like what is your etiquette? Are you speaking properly? Do you grade in all the other interpersonal things that you normally consider as important? So those, see, I wouldn't say it's good or bad. If you don't get the respect of the interviewer, there is
Correct.
no way you're going to get either accepted or given an assignment. Now, interviewers obviously they come from different backgrounds, right? So you cannot. There is no one single yardstick that you can say this is what somebody would like. I have been doing interviews myself in the last 20 years. I've seen so many kids. The idea is that if your interviewer is youngster, you get engaged at detailed technical level. Obviously, whatever technology that you're looking for and what the other gentleman understands. But if the interviewer is somewhat aged in terms of maybe in his 40s, 50s, please make sure that your etiquette is also there on the table. Your language is spot on. You are not referring to something that you don't even know fully. See, half the time interviewers also are technically competent, right? So they come up with, let's say,
Yes.
somebody from a SQL Server background. He appreciates that SQL Server more than his wife. So you have to give him that respect. So you cannot say SQL Server is bad. I do something great with MySQL. There is an open source. Definitely, but at the same time, you have to also understand whether the other person is appreciating what you are doing.
Right.
So
Right.
that I think is a make or break for me. I wouldn't go on and on about my own what I know better than you, but rather what is it that you appreciate. So
Absolutely.
you want to talk, let's say JavaScript? Yes, sure,
Hmm.
we should talk about JavaScript. If the other person is saying, tell me about SQL Server, you go on and on about open source, he's not going to connect with you.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
that establishing that connection baseline, trying to figure out is half the job.
Right. Got it. Got
So
it. Yeah.
that's how my
So what?
approach would be.
Yes, it's a very interesting approach to first understand what the interviewer wants, what is of his interest. Especially, I like the point that if the interview is of mid-age, please try to put your etiquettes on the table because it matters so much to those people. Maybe somebody who's a little younger, they it doesn't mind to them.
Other
It's okay.
probably, yeah.
Yeah. At the same time, if for somebody is interviewer, you can get the understanding at the right from the start of the conversation that that person or the gentleman who's interviewing you is interested in a particular language, and from there you start to pick up. So don't try to negate anything that the interview is trying to say by any means. Empathize the
Absolutely.
person, empathize their journey, and then you have, as you said, the battle is half won there only, because it is not more of the technology, it's all about empathizing the person who is taking the interview. So I think that's a very unique point, because that is coming out from you, because you have interviewed people over 20 years. That's like big thing, and that is why you are able to tell those points, which is, I think, this one of the best interview tips that even I have received, to empathize the interviewer. Most of the times we forget that. Most of the times we come up with what we know, but we seldom take an interest in what the other person might know and where the conversation can go, because interview at the end of the day is a conversation, more an investigation less. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes. So Vasu, what would be the three soft skills that you want a person who you want to hire in your company? A fresher walks into your company, and these are the ABC you're looking at, and these three soft skills are there. You're like, okay, I can take you. Even if you're missing out something on technicalities, we can take care. But these are the three things we're spot on looking out for.
And number one thing is to never say no for learning.
Never say no
If
for
there is
learning.
if there is a discussion on something that you don't know, there is
Hmm.
nothing to feel bad about, and nobody knows everything. I mean,
Right.
just remember that one thing. And in any conversation, don't stay back. If you know something, if you feel there is something to be spoken, you speak your mind and try to see if it doesn't work with everybody. Fine, at least you have learned something.
Right.
If the idea is not accepted, it is still you have tried something, and there is a certain, let's say, nobody is going to say no outright, right? They're going to try and
Yes.
give you a reason why something is not being accepted. So
Absolutely.
you are indirectly learning. So please
Yes.
pay attention to that. And I had one bad habit, so I speak a lot and listen less. So that's something that I don't want anybody to learn. So try to listen more and speak less. So come up with your own thought process. So I see that comes probably from personal choices and background, but generally try to stay quiet, try to listen a little bit more before you come up with your whatever you want to say. And try and uh, be what you call a person in the team. Don't try to look different. Obviously, I mean, in this call, I am a different guy because I am coming like from Goa straight to the call. But
Okay.
generally, so if you are going to a team of 10 people, all in some way of thinking, first you have to have that common understanding, common concept. So let's say if they are youngsters, so you also try and join with them. If they are probably having a coffee, try and join them, try and understand, because a lot of conversations don't happen at a formal setting. So you have to be available in the team when they are talking, and then only then you will be able to actually pick up where the team is heading. So you
Right.
alone cannot pull the team in one direction. Everybody has
Right.
to come together. So try to be with them, probably try and discuss, but obviously be open to listening more than talking.
Fantastic. First of all, never say no to learning. That's one point. That's very beautiful, because learning is ongoing. You cannot know everything. Number two, never stay back. If you can contribute to the conversation, tell what you want to say. It may be accepted, it may be rejected, but if you don't say it, how the people will come to know? Number three, listen a lot and talk was it required. Sometimes it happens that we talk more and listen less. But if you listen more, you're going to learn something that you don't know. Because at the end of the day, we talk what we know, but when we listen, we learn. And fourthly, as you say, be a part of the team. The more you're part of the team, the more is going to be a contribution, the more is you're going to enjoy than being alone. So amazing 4 pointers you give for the soft skills. So now one final question before we wrap this up, third episode of podcast. What is that message you want to give after your 3 decades of experience compressed? This is a message. Whoever are the newcomers to the IT domain, this is my message for you. Stick to it. This is what I learned over 3 decades. Just one line message also will be fine with your experience.
I would say get your hands dirty.
Get your hands dirty.
Don't stop until you figured out what you're trying to do. If you allow it to slip, it will slip. So there is that I don't know who said that, but if you allow it, everything that can go bad will go bad.
Correct.
So you are the only person who's stopping things from going into that bad state, and don't hold yourself back. If it needs extra time, extra effort, please put in.
Absolutely. Get your hands dirty, get going. Don't keep yourself back. So, Vasu, amazing interview, amazing podcast we had with you today. Your journey, first, how you got in, of course, as a joke because of the girls, and then the.
No, it was truth. It was not a joke. It was the truth. So, see, that's what exactly I'm saying. So, you go to the temple for something else and you find God there. So, it's a completely different way of looking at things.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then specifically the curiosity that you have to learn new technology today, even after 3 decades of experience, you're like, hey, I'm here and I'm going to learn what's new happening, especially the pointer that you said. You were knowing about chat GPT formation and evolution even before chat GPT is here today. Today, chat GPT is a gung-ho word. Everybody's saying about chat GPT. Keeping yourself updated is very, very important. Like how you said, some websites you referred, different people, different things.
Some 3 years back, Microsoft gave them a huge fund to build something. OpenAI was not much popular that time, and obviously I encountered OpenAI because I was looking at Elon Musk and his other ventures. But then he was also initially he was associated with OpenAI. Then one day there was a news about Microsoft investing a lot of computing resource in that project. Okay. So then obviously all that money has to produce something, right? So that was on my radar. Okay, let me keep an eye on what is going to happen in this particular project, and it came up brilliantly.
So it was your curiosity. It is the curiosity for you that led to that's the point you're making. Everywhere you could see, get your hands dirty, be curious, listen more, talk less, be a team player. Don't take yourself back. At the early 20s or late 20s, you should not be worried much about work life. If I can subsume in one way, be curious, stay hungry, stay foolish. So be curious, keep pushing, get your hand dirty. This is what I can subsume in one line. So Vasu, absolutely, thank you so much for such an immense contribution, because it's very difficult to get this 3 decades of experience being time compressed into around 30 to 40 minutes of conversation. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you for your time, and I'm sure this particular podcast would be supremely helpful to the newcomers, to whoever is watching this podcast. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for having me, Abhishek.